Hi, I'm Brisha Bowie, founder and CEO of MyElle, and I'm here today with Paul Fishman. Paul is a self-love coach and you do you activist on a mission to help you love you. He's also the host of the Top 100 podcast, The Road to Self-Love. Paul and I have been friends for years, and I can tell you there's so much this beautiful soul has to offer. I'm so excited to have you here with us to help everyone really understand why self-love is so important and why we shouldn't be ignoring it. So, hi, Paul. Welcome. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me bright and early in the morning.
So I think for a lot of people, they feel like they're starting from scratch and probably feeling defeated, especially after COVID. But I think what people really don't realize is that they've probably come so far already and have more strength in them than they know. I know that you definitely walk the talk, practice what you preach, and you have been so candid in sharing every struggle and bump along your road. But can you tell us a little bit about your journey and some pivotal times that led you to this point?
Sure. So I think it's really important before I drop into my journey to self-love, or my journey, just I'm on the road to self-love, if you will, um, is to kind of define what self-love means to me, at least. And it's really going to help frame the understanding of my journey. I look at the word self-love as two separate words that were combined by a hyphen. So the word self is the individual, and love means devotion. So when we're operating from a place of self-love, we're operating at this space of devotion to our individuality. You know, what makes me, what makes you, and what makes everyone individual, completely different. There is no one else like me on this planet. There's no one else like you on this planet. And that is something that a lot of us forget. We continue to try to fit in, look a certain way, feel a certain way. You know, we model our lives after people that we admire. And this is really beautiful and kind of gives us direction. And at the same time, it's really important to really get connected with what makes you you, and what are the gifts that you've been given in this lifetime that no one else has been given, that must be shared with the world. So to kind of apply that to my journey, for most of my life I lived as a people pleaser, and my definition of a people pleaser is someone who says yes to the things they want to say no to, and no to the things they want to say yes to. And within this journey, I found myself going to school and getting good grades because my parents wanted them. You know, getting the fancy job after I graduated college because everyone else around me was like, well, you just need a job that you make a lot of money and everything else will be fine. You know, like always looking to make other people happy with my journey. And very quickly, not really that quickly at all, but like it started wearing on me. And because of that, I had this like mental breakdown. I found myself looking in the mirror and unable to recognize the human staring back at me. I didn't know who Paul was. And I broke down, found myself on the floor, like crying, being like, how do I figure out who I am? How do I make myself just feel good in this body and empowered to live my life the way I want to? And it was kind of like this moment where I had no other choice but to basically remove everything that I was doing in my life. I left the relationship I was in. I moved out of the apartment I was living in. I quit my job and just like started from scratch. A lot of us don't have the opportunity to do this, and I'm really grateful that I did. But I ended up having to move back in with my parents at the young age of 29. And that in itself was a journey that I really wouldn't wish on anyone. But I think that a lot of people can relate, especially during COVID, where a lot of our lives just came to a halt very quickly. And a lot of us lost a lot of things that we really used to define ourselves, like our jobs or the ability to travel or the opportunity to see our friends all the time, go out to dinner, all these things that, you know, were luxuries that we took for granted.
They're also distractions, right?
Mhm.
Because they're distracting us from really sitting with ourselves.
Right. And because we had all these distractions, when COVID hit, I kind of imagined all of us like running along and we hit a brick wall that just made us slow down. And if you know any of the science behind like when you're driving in a car and you get into a car accident, your body's still moving and your organs all go boom. So I feel like this actually happened to so many of us. And we all went into shock, and it really forced a lot of us to look at ourselves in a way that we never looked at ourselves before. And that's really what we're coming out of right now. As you know, the world starts to open up and medicine starts to become available and things like that. We are now, or at least my hope for the world is that we took this time to actually understand what it is to actually be us, and the massive undertaking that it is to really get devoted to our individuality. And I'm hoping that we learned our lesson, because I believe that all of this was a beautiful lesson that we were gifted, an opportunity to heal on a deeper level. Because when you love yourself and you know what you want, because a lot of us don't even know who we are. When you know who you are, that in itself is going to be the key to unlock a lot of happiness and joy in life.
Freedom, yeah. And I think we can look at this COVID as like, okay, it's a clean slate. We are all in a sense starting from scratch, because
Mhm.
we've found out, maybe we don't like socializing as much as we thought we did. We had to say no to things that we would normally say yes to,
Mhm.
right? Like you were saying. So yeah, I mean, that's amazing. It's so great that we get to all do that.
Mhm.
So, and I often, we often talk about emotions and how internalization can play a huge role in your health. What was your first aha moment realizing, that self love was important? Like the big aha.
I realized that I would look in the mirror and I would think to myself, wow, I'm so miserable. Like, I'm so miserable. And I wouldn't feel fulfilled at my job. You know, the relationship that I was in was really just emotionally abusive. And all of the things in my life weren't bringing me joy. And at that time, it was very much like me pointing my finger out at all the other things, being like, my job's the reason I'm not happy. My partner's the reason I'm not happy. This apartment is the reason I'm not happy. My friends are the reason I'm not happy. And I realized that that can't be what I'm blaming, because I have no real control over that. So then I was like, oh, I got to point my finger back at myself and say, what can I do differently? And that was really when I lifted myself out of my experiences and everything that I was going through. Granted, I was a 25-year-old, so it's like I had a little bit more freedom. I didn't have a family, I didn't have all these things. And that's where, I work with individuals to support them getting devoted to their individuality, and not just looking at my story and being like, wow, so I really have to uproot my entire life
Right.
to make myself love myself. That doesn't feel worth it. And that makes sense. And I understand why people wouldn't want to do that. So on this journey to self-love, it's like one step at a time, one small thing at a time. And that's really like when people say, well, how do I love myself, Paul? How do I do this? The first step is just choosing one thing every single day that you're doing for yourself. Just one thing. That's it. Don't overload yourself. We live in an Amazon Prime era where we want to order self-love, self-care, all these intangible things, and have them delivered within 24 to 48 hours. And unfortunately, self-love is not tangible. Self-love is a feeling. It's a practice. It's not something that you can order and have delivered. Which I wish it were, but at the same time, then I would be out of the business.
And it also, you have to go backwards a little with self-love, because you have to go into the things that got you there to begin with. And that's why I think it would be great if, people that are younger can really jump onto this and learn about self-love young, because, you have to undo a lot of the things that you've been sort of used to doing your whole life, right?
Yeah.
So, and then I know that are a huge advocate for body positivity, which we are as well at MyElle. And you've been very transparent and vocal about this topic. I think you've empowered so many people to love their body. But what's kind of your opinion on body positivity and what's going on with, all the marketing that we're seeing and advertised and all of that?
Well, first of all, thank you for, bringing this up, and also um, just this conversation about what body positivity actually is, I think is one that still needs to be had, because when it becomes a hashtag on social media, there's a lot of dilution and there's a lot of, marketing behind it, and it loses a little bit of its, luster, if you will. And for me, body positivity is just a reflection of self-love. It's looking at your body and being, positive about it. And something that I think isn't talked about a lot is not so much body positivity, but body neutrality, right? Being neutral about the feelings about your body, looking at your body and be like, just seeing it as a body, not like forcing yourself to love it or outwardly hating it, right? We definitely don't want the negative self-talk, the body animosity coming up. We want there to be a space where you can just feel gratitude for your body. And this is absolutely a daily journey for me as well, especially in a society where we've been conditioned to believe that thin bodies are the only bodies that are worthy. And, the beauty of life and the beauty of being a human and being an individual is that you have a body that no one else has. Even if you're an identical twin, your body is different than your twins. So the important thing to understand about body positivity and self-love when it comes to body acceptance is that my journey will never be your journey, and your friend's journey and someone on social media, that will never be your journey. You might see a post with someone who's full blown just standing in their underwear and just like holding their belly and loving it, and that might never be your journey. You might really struggle with that, and that's okay. It's really important to know that your journey is yours, and just acknowledging that maybe you don't love your body right now is one step in the right direction, because a lot of us ignore this fact. A lot of us are very ashamed by our bodies. Even more so, we're ashamed by the way we think about our bodies. And it's just noticing. This is the first step, noticing that you are struggling with your body, or noticing that today you don't feel that great in your body. I'm going through something right now physically that really makes me angry at my body a lot of the times. Like, why is this happening? And really, if we get stuck in this why me, like, why do I have a bigger body? Like, my brother was born like out of the womb with a six pack, I swear.
Yeah.
And me, I just have a bigger body. And I would always look at his body and be like, oh, I wish I had his body. Why do I have to be stuck with this bigger body? And when I released that wish and desire to be like someone else, that's really when the healing began.
Yeah, you got to feel it to heal it, right? So if you feel that emotion and you can name it, and then you can begin to heal it. And me working in body sculpting for so many years, yes, doing it the natural way, but everybody that walked in my door, I quickly realized, I was like, this is either going to really mess me up or really help me, because every single person has something they don't like about themselves, whether it's a scar or, a mole or weight or anything really, their hair, their eyelashes, their nose, their ears. I mean, everyone is feeling that way. And I think when you realize that you're not alone in that, it's not the same thing, they feel differently about something else, then you can sort of accept it and go, okay, this is normal. Like, it's not abnormal to feel that you don't like something on yourself, but try to move past it, right? Your body's the vessel, you're carrying it, right?
Amen.
Through life, it's carrying you through life.
It
So
is.
so, okay, let's get to the hard topic about, intimate wellness, because obviously that's what we do at MyElle. And we speak a lot about intimate wellness, but we really like to offer, our customers or listeners to have more of like a full spectrum view on intimate wellness. And it's all encompassing, really, right? It's not just about physical or emotional, and it's about loving yourself. It's all of it. But I really believe that self-love is at the root of all of it. And, speaking about intimate, I know we've spoken before about intimate wellness and self-love, but just to touch a little bit on that topic and get your feedback and your opinion on that.
Yeah, so I mean, it's funny because a lot of my clients who will come through my door, you know, in the first few sessions, I'll be like, so tell me about like your relationship with yourself intimately, and it's kind of like the running joke, why is self-love so hard, but masturbation is so easy.
Yeah.
But for a lot of us, it's not, right? A lot of us, like the idea of being intimate with ourselves is kind of like either we were taught that it's wrong or we don't know, it doesn't feel good for us because we have an interesting relationship with our body, right? And this this connection to who we are and what makes us feel good is a really, really important connection to explore. And that's why what you do at MyElle is so beautiful because it merges healing and, personal intimacy, making ourselves feel good, and using the light therapy, which I really, really love. And I push a lot of my clients, or I don't push them, I gently nudge them in the direction of like, taking a bath with yourself and just like exploring your body, and these are things that are taboo or we feel a lot of shame around. And I really think that this has created a lot more harm than good in our lives because there's nothing wrong with making ourselves feel good. And that's a part of self love, literally and figuratively. And it's really, really important for me to drive home that if you're struggling with loving yourself, well, my question is like, when was the last time you loved yourself? Like, when was the last time you spent that alone time? Because giving yourself pleasure and the permission to heal through that pleasure is probably not only so magical, but also very empowering. So, I assign all of my clients, if they have the privilege to have a bath at home, to take a bath and really explore their bodies because one is connected to the other. Mental and emotional self-love is absolutely connected to physical self-love. And this is where self-care and self-love really get to merge because when you are releasing all of that, those dopamines and getting hit with that rush of when you're exploring that intimate connection with yourself, it really is empowering to say, oh, wow, I can make myself feel this good. I don't have to rely on anyone else. And that's really a direct, mirror of what self-love is on a grander scale. I can make myself feel good and I don't have to rely on anyone else to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think too, there's certain things that you can do like self massage and like you said, taking a bath and do it healthily or a healthy way, present it to yourself. Cause I was listening to a podcast the other day and it was a kinesiology woman and she was talking about self massage. And then I went to an actual massage therapist, and she was like trying to help me with my psoas muscle and it was tickling, and she's like, tickling means it's tight. And she started talking to me about self massage. I'm like, oh, okay, this is coming up again, so it must be a thing, right? um
Yeah.
yeah, and I think you're right, it goes hand in hand, self love and self care. What do you do for self care?
Um, right now it's a lot of rest. It's a lot of just like, working for a couple of hours and then giving myself the space to rest, nourishing my body with nutrient dense foods, lots of bone broth, lots of um, just like probiotics and whole foods, noticing the amount of time that I spend on my phone, limiting that, journaling, reading. I love movement, so whether it's riding my spin bike or going for a walk with my dog, these are all self-care activities. A lot of people get stuck in the thinking that self-care is self-love, and that's not the case. There's quite a difference. And a lot of people, or at least people who've come through my doors, confuse the two and also are doing so much self-care that their self-care is turning into more of a self-destructive behavior because they're leaving self-love out of it. Like I said before, a lot of us wish that we could order self-love on Amazon, and a lot of us do try and do this. Self-care, going and buying yourself something, is a form of self-care. So when you're going out and you're getting your nails done or your hair is done or getting the massages or you're buying yourself stuff, you're doing self-care. However, if you're not loving yourself through the process, if you're making yourself feel wrong for spending the money, or you're saying, oh, I should be doing something different than getting a massage, or I should really be working instead of getting my nails done, it's totally counterproductive. And that's when your self-care becomes self-destructive. So I would really encourage you, if you're self-caring yourself into oblivion and you're just having a really hard time with this, input some gratitude into that. Really inject gratitude into everything you do. I'm so grateful that I'm giving myself the time to go get a massage. I'm so grateful that I have the job that allows me to afford to get my nails professionally done. These types of things are really looked past as not really important. And it's really important to connect the mental to the physical act. The mental act is the self-love. The physical act is the self-care.
That's great. That is the best way I've ever heard it described. That's amazing. So, okay. So how do we bottle up your self-love genius and give it to people? I know you're doing some one-on-one stuff now, some coaching.
Yeah, so I mean, the best place to get started is if you're hearing what I'm talking about, and you're like, oh wow, I would love to work with Paul, is you can either head to Instagram. My Instagram is at Paul Fishman. So it's my first name, Paul, last name, fish, like the things that swim in the sea, man like me. Send me a DM. Say, hey, I heard you're chatting with Bree about self-love, and I really feel like this is the next journey for me. I would love some support. We talk about it. You can also go to my website, Paulfishman.love, and there's a one-on-one coaching tab, and you can fill out an application and book a discovery call with me. Really, whatever feels good for you. I'm not in the game of forcing people to learn how to love themselves in a way that doesn't feel right and true for them. That's why I love when people are interested, when they DM me on Instagram, because we can create something custom. I've had people hire me to come to their homes for the weekend and work with them and their entire family. I've done like larger form seminars for big groups, right? One-on-one is really beautiful because we can get to the deep core roots that are only yours. And I also employ like energy healing and mantra work and all of these modalities that I've trained in and learned over the nearly decade of me being on my own self-love journey. So all of my offerings, my courses are available at Paulfishman.love. But I really encourage you to create that connection with me and DM me on Instagram.
That's awesome. Yes. And even your Instagram stories are so knowledge based and fun to watch.
Yeah.
I love your dance parties. They're
And you
great.
can also listen to my podcast, The Road to Self-Love. And
Yeah.
Bree was a guest recently. So if you want to learn more about her journey as well, The Road to Self-Love, anywhere you listen to podcasts.
Yes, your podcast is amazing. All right. Thank you, Paul, so much for being with us today and talking and teaching everyone about self-love and what it really means. So everyone go check out his Instagram, his site, his podcast. It's all amazing information. You will not regret it. And there'll be information on our site as well, myellevibe.com. And we will post links in this podcast as well. Thanks so much, Paul.
Thank you.